Hi, guys and gals. Shane Stevenson here at the Buffalo Naval Park, Director of Museum Collections Curator. And for today's video, it's a sad day because it's the last day of our season. And we will be reopening again March 22nd of 2025. So I'm calling this video Museumship Musings. All right, it's a bunch of different topics and subjects, and I hope you enjoy. So it's going to be a summary of a little bit of this past year, what I'm kind of looking forward to moving forward. So musings about things. So I've got my notes, and away we go. Okay, so I've got a little presentation here for you. Let's see. Okay, so this is the first things first. If you can hear some knocking and, oh, there you go, some knocking. This is what you're hearing, all right? And this is kind of what happened. So yesterday, the crew noticed that we had some water incursion in the Little Rock on the main deck. So we have the signal gun platform, which leads into an office on the main deck from above. And that's now where we store one of our air conditioning units. So we have had heavy rains over the past few days, say Thursday and Friday. And there's some water incursion. So if you take a look at the image, where the X is, that's where I'm sitting right now, right? That's my office. So just forward of here are the two spaces. You'll see a small head, and then you'll see like a stateroom, right? And that's where that banging is coming from. So if you hear that throughout the presentation, I thought it would be kind of cool just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. If you hear the banging, and then the platform is right above that on the 01 level, where the signaling gun used to be. And so we think that at that edgewise, there's some water seepage coming through, or it's where the air conditioning unit then enters the vessel, because that was cut out for those air conditioning units. So the crew's they've sealed the outside around the hoses for the air conditioning unit, the wiring, and now they're beginning to clean up that forward office there. It certainly wasn't flooding, but, the carpet got wet and things like that. So they're ripping that up. Unfortunately, the tile in that smaller bathroom, that got warped and things. So they're ripping those things up. So that's what's going on behind me, if you hear that, or forward of me. So yeah, last day today, we had a pretty successful year, right? We had about 55,000 visitors, either buying tickets or through events. And that is a bump from pre-COVID levels, which we're, of course, excited to see. So if we can grow by a few thousand every year, a few thousand visitors, that's something for me that would deem it a very successful year. One of these things that we are doing this off season is something new, and I had good conversations with Ryan at the New Jersey, and Slater, Shanna at the Slater, and Paul at the Cod, was doing something like a winter tour. So we have developed winter tours for this winter to see how it goes. We calling them Blue Nose, all right? If you're familiar, Blue Nose is any ship or sailor. They become a Blue Nose if they cross the Arctic Circle. We are not in the Arctic Circle, of course, but in the wintertime, it can be pretty chilly down here. So on our website, you can find Blue Nose Winter Tours, and you'll see down there at the bottom the subject matter, right? So we have a city at sea, which is run by our lead caretaker, Brendan, on the USS Little Rock. Combat Systems at Sea is run by our lead technical volunteer, Mario Roy. Healthcare at Sea is by our resident corpsman, John Moffat. Beneath the Sea will be done by a couple submariners, Tim and two Johns, so two different Johns and Tim. The docent-led guided tour will be, that's a very similar one to the season. It's a guided tour with a docent. So that will be a few different people. And then instead of doing just like kind of a straight behind the scenes curator tour like I've done for the past 4 or 5 years, I'm kind of morphing that for the winter into a ship's archaeological tour. So that will be with me. And that's kind of riding on the piggyback of the archaeological series this year that I did with Lucas. So if you're hardy and you want a blue nose, you want to become a blue nose, check our website. You will see the Blue Nose Winter Tours. Each box will have the individual tours. And for this season, they are Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. One of the things, of course, that we would do is if there's a cancellation, we've committed to contacting each individual by about 9:15 in the morning. The docent-led tours will be Thursdays and Fridays, 10:30 a.m. The specialized tours that you see down there at the bottom will be Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays at 1 p.m. So, and that's where you'll find the schedule there. If we'd love to have you on board. Also, wintertime is a time for us to kind of settle back and decide what we want to do for the winter to get ready for next year and to bring some things back for visitors. So what you'll see here is I am on this is a blueprint of the Little Rock, third deck. And you can see we're kind of focused on the healthcare spaces. So you'll see the two offices off to, say, the left of the screen. That would be the bacteria lab and pharmacy. Right next to that, excuse me, right next to that forward was the medical office, and where the MD would be. All right, the head of the H&D division department on board. Then you'll see after that, it also says medical office, but for a long time that was also the isolation ward. All right, so we're going to be putting that tour, that space back on the tour for 2025. And then that curved area around the barbette, just, port of that, but up, is the dental office. Not the dental offices with the chairs and the squeaky things, but the actual, like the records office for the dental department. So that's a pretty cool space because it's rounded. And then you have the inner barbette where the hoists are, the hoist barbette. That's part of the architecture of that space. If you take a look back at the two offices off to your left, you'll see that there's a deck hatch there. Down below is the S5, all right, Supply 5 Division and Marine NCOs. That will also be coming back because then that's an area that we can add to encampments because it's a berthing area. So just looking forward down that passage, they'll also be working on, and there's some other spaces as well. So we also have a really busy season in terms of two major things are the dry docking, ship's maintenance for the Sullivans and the Croaker. If you've seen the video, I've started on my end of pulling artifacts off, getting them ready to be populated with people actually preparing the dry dock and the ship's maintenance. So the people, the naval architects, getting ready for the shipyard workers. And so we don't want any of those artifacts ruined. So I'm doing this a little early, but it's probably not a little early, right? It sounds like it's early because the dry dock might be a year away. But to prepare now, because come maybe June or July, we will have people crawling all over the ships in preparation for the ship's maintenance dry dock. So that's a major thing. Again, we've reached our soft goal of $21 million, and that money has gone to the city, and now we are consulting with the city as the experts here and giving guidance to the city as they begin negotiations with the shipyard, tugging companies, dredging companies, things like that. So they're really taking the lead because the ships are owned by the city, but we are sitting at the right hand consulting with them. Also, getting ready for HNSA. We are extremely excited. I think it's been at least 20 years, maybe more, that Buffalo Naval Park has hosted the HNSA conference. Of course, everyone to our face says, oh, we can't wait to be there. So we'll see. This past year was San Diego, but we have a lot of cool things that we are beginning to work on. One of those things is we're partnering with the National Maritime Historical Society, which is pretty unique. Usually it's the HNSA conference, HNSA alone, right? But for this year, we will be partnering with another organization, and we're looking forward to that. Right, Kathy Green was the executive director of the Cobia and the Wisconsin Maritime Museum, and she's been hired as the executive director of the National Maritime Historical Society. And I think because of that bond that it was built, because they were having their conference here anyway, we said, why don't we put it under more than one umbrella? So this might open up the subject matters for our HNSA participants in terms of the presentations, and just meeting another set of people with maritime passion as well, but maybe not U.S. naval warships or British warships or Australian warships or Canadian warships. All right, so we think that can really create like a lot of energy and partnering opportunities. Some cool things that I'd like to kind of reflect on for this year was the Talos missile. Fabulous. I worked for about a year with the museum in South Bend, Indiana. If you were following that, those arrived last year. We had great volunteers cleaning up the missile and the booster and the wings and fins. And now she's on board. Not in her final stowage places, but they're on board. That was a great thing that happened this year that I was happy to, that I took the lead on and was happy to manage that. Also, the archaeological series with Lucas. Thank you, Lucas. That's been awesome. He's not from Buffalo, so he spends his own time getting here, and that's been fun, and I hope you've been enjoying that series as well. We're always chatting and talking via email. Hey, what about this idea? What about that idea? So we're excited to continue that. Of course, the P-39 series with David and the Niagara Aerospace Museum was a series that I was really proud of as well. I've worked a lot with myself and volunteers to kind of condense the artifact and manuscript collections. So that's been kind of been at various points throughout the year. Of course, the curator tours, I think I had about 50 this year. YouTube, thank you, everyone. We have about 153,000 more views this year than we did in all of 2023. So thank you for your continued support. I'd also like to thank the volunteers that I've had this year, not just for the Talos in 2023, but either VRG groups, personal volunteers that have worked for me specifically, and they're really passionate. So I kind of total that it's been about 592 hours that volunteers have worked for me specifically on collections and artifact projects. That roughly turns into about 3 months and a half, or a little more than 3.5 months of full-time work. So I'd like to thank all the volunteers as well for that. Now I'll move back to the slides. Some things, and I'm not going to say too much, but some of the things that I'm excited about for the near future is this. My good friend Nick Erickson at the Grout Museum District, the Sullivan Brothers Iowa Veterans Museum. We were speaking about a week or so ago, and he says, a gentleman who served aboard the who served aboard the Sullivans, roughly 1956 to 1959 or so, brought us this plaque in our collection, for our collection, and it's right from the ship. So, of course, my ears perk up, and we had a nice long conversation. They interviewed the gentleman, Robert Plaque, who is from Chicago, and they were celebrating and remembering the Veterans Day ceremony at the Grout Museum District, and this gentleman thought that it would be a good time to bring the plaque back to Iowa. Nick and I have had that conversation. I think this plaque should remain there because it was donated, even though it was on the ship from this gentleman's recollection. And I'll tell a little bit more about the story. But, I think Nick was a little nervous. He's like, oh, are you going to try and claw this away from us? And I said, no. The donor's choice to donate it there. He has been to Buffalo before, but maybe not in about 15 or 20 years. And he didn't send it to us. He sent it over there. So I said what I would eventually like to do is get this plaque refabricated. All right. So this is a great picture, but we'll take close-ups, the thickness of it, because this gentleman, Robert Plaque, said that there were 5 of these on the ship, and he was apparently on the main deck. So I've been kind of looking around. He believed it was the quarterdeck. I've looked around for 5 maybe mounting holes, anything like that. Can't really see anything. But from his story, he said he was out on the main deck. They had a wave come over the weather break and knocked off this particular plaque, and it was sliding along the deck, ready to go overboard when he stopped it and caught it. So instead of putting it back on the bulkhead or wherever this was located, he put it in his sea bag and brought it home. So certainly I will believe that there were plaques like this on board. It just is kind of parsing out that story a little bit more. So this could have been anywhere from 56, 57, 58, 59. I've looked at pictures roughly from that area of the quarterdeck. I don't see anything that matches these. So it's an apocryphal story for now, and maybe we'll be able to get to the bottom of it. But Nick and I will be working pretty closely on this. So I'm excited, and I know he's excited about that. Also, fairly recently, I've been trying to do some, as best I can, some digitization of 3 records that we have. These seem to be 45s. They're not long plays. They're, I believe, 45s. And so this was a recording we had of Father Tom Conway. He was certainly the chaplain for the USS Indianapolis. When it was torpedoed and sunk, he went into the water with the 900 other guys. Eventually, about 600 perished while waiting for rescue. He was one of those, but he went from man to man to deliver last rites, and he would take their dog tag as kind of a record keeping. But eventually he succumbed as well. Recently awarded the Navy Cross, family and parishes in in Buffalo and in his hometown were very adamant that he be awarded the Navy Cross, and that had recently happened. But we do have a recording because he was a priest in Buffalo for 8 years. He wasn't from Buffalo, but he went to school here, the seminary, got his divinity degree, and then he started working in various parishes around here until he joined the Navy. Recently this year, we got two, again, 45s, I believe. I don't have the inches, maybe 12-inch, 10-inch, from James Perie, who was a croaker sailor during World War II. Now, these two albums, you can see it's what's left of the original packaging that he sent home to his wife, right? You can see in the corner, USS Croaker, Fleet Post Office, San Francisco. And so these are recordings. The blue album there that you see is him playing harmonica for his wife and saying, "Oh, I hope you remember the song," things like that. The green, with the green label, is he's rustled up a couple of his friends because he wasn't having enough fun on his own. And so they sing a couple of songs, recording again for his wife. So getting them digitized, cleaning them up, the static is, as you can imagine, is pretty bad. But taking those digital files now and running them through a system that can maybe clean up some of the background noise. I have some of the words, I have some of the sentences, but of course it's still kind of pretty hard to hear. Yes. I know I've talked about in the past making available our ship's blueprints, or the booklet of general plans, I should say. And these have all been digitized now. So I think over the winter, one of my things is I'm going to be working with the staff to say, how can we get these PDF files of these booklets of general plans into our fans of these ships, or in general, get them into their hands. All right, so we do have ownership of these. These have been in the collections probably since the 80s. And what I'll do is I'll run through the blueprints or the booklet of general plans. So, and you can see the 4 that we will make available here. The 1953 Croaker booklet of general plans, that's in the upper left, right? So that's after the conversion. In the upper right is the 1956 USS the Sullivan's booklet of general plans, which I've used a lot in videos over the past year. What I haven't used so much is the 1943 or 1944 blueprint booklet of general plans from the Sullivans as well, and that's the lower right. All right, so how do we know? Well, because she still has both of her quintuple on the 01 level, Mark 14, Mark 15. In 1945, July of 1945, of course, the Sullivans is back in America. The war, without the use of atomic weapons, the war plans say they'll go to 47 or 48. Japan will. So 90 destroyers came back to America in that summer to get refit. Mount 14, the forward quintuple torpedo tube was removed in July of 45, and then the Bofors went on in its place, the quad Bofors, a beam of each other, port and starboard. So this print and booklet of general plan is before that, because she still both has those quintuple tubes. And then, of course, the 1973 USS Little Rock plan as well. So I'm excited about that. I know there's a lot of passionate people out there that are interested in getting their hands on your little hands, getting your hands on these blueprints. So we'll make them available. Working on that over the winter to make them available. Also working on, very happy to be working with the HMCS Haida. All right, we've been talking to them for about a month now or so, and looking to do a comparison between their tribal class and our Fletcher class destroyer. So we're kind of laying out the scripts now. And of course, working with Canada, they have to, whatever video would also have to be put in the French language as well. So they have some concerns that we don't have to address. But building out a script, so Stephen and I are working with Danielle and Sean and about 3 or 4 other people up there, Gabriel, and we are plotting a course. This will be a slow release. We're looking at maybe 1 a year or 1 every 6 months. So biannually maybe, for doing different comparison videos. Shipbuilding in the U.S. for shipbuilding in Britain, gun platforms throughout World War II on both vessels, the service records and where they went and why they went there. So that's also pretty exciting. And of course, a lot of other things. Forward to having Lucas back, hopefully, to do more of that series. Working with Nick from the Grout Museum District to expand out some things. So, Museum Ship Musings, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed. Let's see, do I have other? No, that's it. So, I don't have other slides. That must mean the presentation is over. Can't thank you enough for your support. As I'd mentioned, we increased our viewership by 153,000 this year as opposed to 2023, and we're really happy about that. So thank you very much for your continued support and for your memberships. And we'll be bringing you videos throughout the season. I know it's getting into that holiday time, so I want to wish you and yours a happy Thanksgiving. And that it's enjoyable. Please leave comments, questions, concerns, thoughts in the section below. And you know what? We will see you again soon.